This is a 2017 Victory Magnum in that beautiful habanero orange, but yeah, this bike has seen better days. But today I'm going to make the first step towards getting this bike back on the street in a better way. But first, I got to clean off a lot of this crust. Well then, I didn't know that that connector was actually orange. Some of that is normal, but I don't think they're supposed to move that much. What I was really looking for was just to clean up a lot of the dirt on this thing, and it looks so much better. It actually looks like a bike that just needs body parts now versus a bike that's been dusty and cobwebs and brake dust covering up all of the modules. Air filter, got a new one on the way. I'm gonna take this dusty one out. That thing's crusty. And we're gonna work on this front piece to try to get all of this situated, and then we can try to figure out the other stuff with the body. What we got here is a inner fairing for a cross country. There are some differences that make the Magnum and the cross country not the Magnum. For instance, the speaker grills right here, they are different. In fact, this is the one from the Magnum. You can see it actually has a tweeter right there on the right. We don't have a tweeter right there. So what I'm gonna do, we're just gonna save this, and when he gets his bike back, he can decide what he wants to do. These are the hinge covers. I'm going to attempt to save these. This one's road rash pretty bad, but if I remember anything from my Sportster when I was repairing the triple, this can all just be leveled, smooth it out, put some Bondo on it, smooth that out, and then we should be able to paint over this probably like a gloss black and bring it back to life. This is the floorboard that I'm looking at. I'm not going to deal with this today, but I was looking at deciding whether or not I'm gonna buy another one. I don't know yet, because the problem is I think that floorboard is actually pushed into the bracket. So we'll see once I kind of release it and see if we can get it to do what it needs to do and pivot. If not, I'll just deal with it later and just buy another one. We do get a speedometer with this as well. And we got a radio, so I probably will use this. That chrome, don't know what we're gonna do about the chrome, because the bike is not gonna be orange anymore. We're gonna go with an entirely different color. I had to do a little bit of research. We got a slight problem. So this is the radio for the cross country, and you see the harness. You see how the harness goes straight into the speakers, okay? This is the radio for the Magnum, okay? I'd imagine it, this one can handle more power because the Magnum has tweeters. I don't know too much about audio, but yeah, this one's bigger. It can more likely take more accessories to it, right? So they do use the same connector right there and right there. The problem, this is a speaker housing for a Magnum, and this is the speaker housing for a cross country. So these are different. You can see the wires actually coming out that are separate. I think this is for the tweeter, maybe. And this is the piece that can hook directly into the wiring harness. So the point I'm making is the audio system is not going to fit with this because I don't have the other side of the speaker. That's the whole reason I bought this, because this piece right here, which is what this connects to, is the exact same piece as this, which is what this connects to. This bracket right here is the same as that bracket right there. And this will bolt up in here when we take this out with this bracket. What I gotta do right now is take pieces like this off of this old bracket, because we're gonna throw this away. And we're gonna move all these pieces over to this one. And we're gonna keep all the spares just in case. So this is gonna help us, you know, make sure we have everything we need to mount. Yeah, so think of this like a rainy day bag of hardware. So just in case we don't have everything we need over here, like I did have to put one right there, we can just come over here, pull something, put it on here. Don't be fooled. This thing has some weight to it. Actually, there's a line here for, looks like somebody has some fog lights. I may end up taking this off. It's not really needed, but we'll figure that out later. Let's get this. It should sit just like that. So we got this thing, man, from Vic Guy. Still got the tag on it. And they made this where, well, the engineers made it where you don't have to take any of this off. You kind of just lift this thing off when you're servicing the bike. But Vic Guy, all of this came as one thing and just made this so much easier. So now I got to rock the cables through and try to get this thing bolted in. This is the connector for the Magnum's radio. This piece hooks into this part of the radio, the antenna. But if you disconnect this, this takes this entire loom out. But this loom is for the handlebar. So you're gonna lose all of your handlebar controls up here. I'm trying to think, maybe I could take the speakers off, the cross-country speakers off, and plug in the one speaker for the Magnum and convert it over. But I don't know if, I don't know, man. It's gonna sound weird with one speaker. All right, with that significant work that we did, there's a significant change that's about to happen. So I talked to the owner about the bike. Without this harness, man, there's a lot of functionality that's not going to work on this bike, and it's going to be a bigger headache than to just make it work. So this is the radio. So the plan is I'm going to take these 4 bolts off of this. We're going to take the protective covering off of the one that's nicer. Swap that out. This actually uses a different harness than the one that's on there. So yeah, we need this radio for it to work. We need that harness. And also right here, this is for the speaker and this is for the radio on the harness. This one as well is for speaker. And most of the other stuff is kind of standard for the other one. We had the option of 2 cross-country speakers or 1 Magnum speaker. So what we decided to do, this part is $331 from Polaris for the left side fully assembled. Well, we don't want to spend that money. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this entire assembly from the Magnum. We also have the tweeter right here for the right side. We can connect it in right there. So we're going to bridge it in. This is the amp for the left speaker. But what's important about this is the connector for the harness right here. Okay, that little piece right there plugs in right here. And this is the other side right here that plugs into this, whichever one it is. So what I plan on doing, this is simply power and ground. Okay, I'm going to chop that off right there at the amp's end. I'm going to come back over to the cross country and I'm going to take this side off and then I'm going to splice into this. I'm going to chop this off. or actually just disconnect it. And so that's going to allow me to pull this entire harness out. And I'm also going to take the right side off and put the Magnum piece on. And then we're going to leave the cross-country side on. That will allow us to have a right Magnum speaker with the tweeter, and also a hodgepodge cross-country for the left side without the tweeter. And also we're not going to have the amp. So there could be some weird playback where, you know, you might blow the left speaker because the right one has an amp on it and it can receive more input. But that's what we're going to do. That's going to allow us to have the right side and have the cross country. The difference is going to be this as well. This is the difference between a Magnum's speaker cover with the tweeter on the back and a non-Magnum cover. So that's going to be a big thing. He doesn't care. And ultimately, I think that is the best compromise, and it allows us to get this thing going. And if he ever decides to go ahead and get the left piece of this, the whole assembly, he can do that. And basically, you know, he can just bolt it in and not have to worry about the fact that I spliced that wire. Now, we should be able to get away with this without cutting the cross country's harness, okay? Because you can see those speakers are just connected by those little pins, hot and ground. So we should be good on that. So tomorrow we're going to come back at this, and that's what we're going to do. Like I said, he's perfectly fine with no audio, period. He just wants the bike back on the street. And so while I'm already in it, I'm going to try to make everything work like it's supposed to. So I think this way allows him to still swap that piece out if he wants to later, but at least we'll be able to get some decent audio. And most importantly, everything is going to work like it's supposed to because we're using the correct harness. So yeah, I think this is the best way to go. Alright, y'all, got most of the boring work out of the way, but I had the fan on because it's so warm in here now. And it's mid-May. Before I fully wire this up, this is the connector that we spliced in to the left cross-country speaker. That's going to plug in right here. So perfect. Zip tie it to that. And on the right side of the bike, this is the Magnum speaker. Actually, the harness piece is right here. It's going to plug into this piece right here. This is where the tweeter gets connected into the speaker. So we got to plug that in. And now we just need to get the radio screen put back in, and then we can mount the radio, and then we can bridge that in right here, and then we can connect all these wires, and we should be able to power this thing on. before we get the radio in, I gotta install the screen. So I'm not gonna have the space to do that once the radio gets installed. And all this jumbled mess, the radio's connector comes right here. It connects right there. Ooh, that is not a lot of space. Yeah, so I realized I got this in backwards. I was like, why is it so hard to get in? Here we go. Yeah, it's supposed to go like this. Which is why that cable was being stretched. Yeah. That's how it's supposed to go. But I'm just mocking it up because I want to make sure that this thing actually works. Once you do that, that slots in this post. With that plugged in, I think we can throw the battery in and see what happens. All right, fam, let's see what we got. All right, we got the orientation right. Oh no. Is the mileage seriously stored in the freaking screen? You are kidding me. Well, luckily we got the other one. That's perfectly fine. That is okay. All right, whatever. Let's see if we can figure out this music situation. That still says victory. Why is it still doing that? Let's do the fuel pump. Obviously there is no fuel pump because nothing's there, but I guess that was the relay clicking. Yeah, so all of that works. The signal is working, but we're still not getting anything. The buttons are lighting up, so that's cool. All right, I got something. I clicked off. Okay, press mode. All right, it's searching for his phone. Okay, cool. I don't know. I'm just gonna have to play around with this and figure it out. Okay, volume. All right, let's see, volume. The volume is down. I think I recall him saying the volume button no longer worked on this thing. So we got a problem. None of these buttons are working. It's currently in USB mode, and I think that might have been a mistake because this won't work. It's just not doing anything. And I plugged in my phone via USB. It picked it up, and it was playing some WAV files, but I couldn't hear them because the volume's permanently off. Can't turn it up. So what I think I'm going to do, we're going to swap out that speedometer screen, and I'm going to take this apart and see if there's a loose connection somewhere in here, and maybe I can fix this. If not, we're going to have to buy another one. If not, you know, none of this is going to work without this. All right, people, what we have is a disassembled Magnum media control button. So what you can see in there, those are the wires that make this thing work. Okay. And what we got is some corrosion on the contact pins all throughout this thing. So essentially this is why this is not working. So what I'm going to try to do is see if I can spray some contact cleaner on it to make a good connection and get a brass brush and just kind of work some of that stuff off of there and put it back together and see if it works. All right, so I changed it up. What I have the board in right now is this product called a Vapor Rust, and it essentially is a biodegradable organic rust remover. So I set the PC board in there. When it's done in about 20 minutes, we're going to neutralize the I guess, the acidity nature of this in some water. And we're going to see if this works. Because basically what's going on, man, when you press those buttons, the button isn't making full contact with the wires on the opposite end. And so I can see that it's already eating away at some of that corrosion. I'm going to leave this in here for a few more minutes and hopefully this works. All right, it's the third day, but we got some progress, but I ran into a slight problem. But anyway, before we move forward, I got to give a quick shout out to my folks over at Patreon. They're the sponsor of this video. So we built this little community inside this big community, and each active patron gets a spot on my wall. So if you're into that, I'll leave a link down in the comments. Let's get back to this thing. Handlebar harness for the audio. We have that plugged in. Straight up, the vapor rust did not work. But it did not kill the board. The board works perfectly fine still. We're basically in the same place. However, this board is chewed up pretty bad, as you can see. But what I did, this wire actually popped out. So yeah, we've damaged this thing more. What I did, I've tried to trace the connection for what's what on this board, and I actually put a bead of solder on what is actually the mute button, and this is actually the talk to text button, or whatever the voice assistant button is for that wire. So what happens now is when I press this button, it actually cycles through the menu on the bike, even though that is the mute button. So I've swapped that somehow and made it work. Yeah, it's busted. But for me to test the audio, when I press the audio up button, it does nothing. But when I press the volume down button, the volume down button works. Okay? But I figured something out. So what I have here is a multimeter, and we're going to set this thing to continuity mode. Now what this does, think of it as a tone tester. You can put this on one end of a wire and put this on the other end of a wire, and basically this sits in between the circuit, and so it can actually act as a way to complete a circuit. And you can determine where, you know, if you stick this on one side of a wire, you can stick this on the other side of the wire, and it'll actually give you that tone to let you know, hey, these wires are connected. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to use the multimeter to essentially send a signal as if it's pressing this button by tapping on the appropriate connection on the back of this, which should allow me to increase the volume. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about circuit boards and PCBs to fix this board, but I do think to, you know, test this out, we should get what we're looking for. What that multimeter is doing is sending basically the signal that the wire needs to essentially simulate pressing that button. Because when you press a button on the hand switch, all it's doing is just sending a signal like just on. And if you hold that button, it just stays on. That's all it's doing. So if I can send a signal just like a little jolt, I should be able to simulate pressing that button, and it should be enough to get the volume up. So let's see if we can do it. This, obviously we're going to need a new board, but okay, there we go. All right, that's actually changing the radio station right now. Right, so as I press that, see that? It's changing it. So that does work. 97.1. Okay. I think that actually is a local radio station. Okay, cool. It's even showing the song. Got Prince playing. Let's see if we can get this audio working. Now I really have incentive to make this work because I want to hear Prince temporarily before I have to cut it off for copyright strike. So I'm going to touch these two wires, and I'm pretty sure the volume is going to go up. There it is. Awesome. We got audio. Pretty sure we got it on both sides. That worked. That freaking worked, guys. We know that the audio works. What exactly did I do? I couldn't tell you. Basically, I connected what I thought was the correct wires, and that got the volume to go up. But ironically, the wires that I was sending power through was actually for the volume down. I wasn't actually doing that for volume up. So something's wonky in that hand control piece, But hey, we got the volume up. We know that the volume works on both sides, but I do have one more problem. But I do have a new hand control piece on the way. Went ahead and bought it because trying to do all that to get it to work on a rod, no, that's just not gonna work. But hey, we got the volume up, and right now that's all that matters. The problem is the cross-country speaker already has a tweeter there. I didn't realize this, so when you try to mount this up, the Magnum basically, it just doesn't work. We're just gonna take the cross-country piece out, put the Magnum piece in here and bolt everything up and swap the speedometer out, and we should be able to put all this back together. So we're gonna get these screws out. I think there's only 4 that holds this thing in, I think. And I think the hardest part is gonna be the harness because it's behind the radio. So I may have to take that back out. That's a little irritating, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Yeah, so a little tab, like that. Then I gotta pull this tab out again. Pretty easy. All right, and it's free. Make sure I don't lose my washers. It's like the, ooh, that thing is dusty. Look at that. Hey, at least it works though. Get this one. I tried to clean up the area just a little bit, you know, just to get some of the dust off. I'm gonna pop this in the back. Alright, just gotta tack it back down. Plot twist. I actually put the wrong one on. I had to do this again. But there we go. 61,000 miles. Oh, goodness. Okay. Yeah, that works.
I use Secret Help.
And the fun, now putting this back on, everything else bolts up fine, is these little screw holes right here. They can be a bit of a pain. Let's do this. Here's to hoping that this thing doesn't have to come back on. Does it go? If I get anywhere near damaging this thing, I'm gonna cry. You're gonna see me cry. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right, so what it was, these cables right here for the right side of the handlebar, they were pinching it so this thing wouldn't slide in like it was supposed to. So once I did that, everything is where it needs to be. All right, loosely mounted, everything's lining up. We got a Magnum piece on the right and a cross-country piece on the left. But it works. Now I'm gonna hook this tweeter in. I think the way this works, it comes through like this. Like that. And then we're gonna do power. Oh shoot, I bent that, gotta be careful. And then we got power right here. And the tweeter is gonna piggyback off the power on here. So you hook it in the bottom like that. Then you hook the other one for the ground in the bottom, like. So we're gonna just sit that in there. This is not gonna be permanent, but this is gonna have to come back off again anyway. All right, like, all this ain't on there, but yeah, let's see what it sounds like. All right, let's see. Copyright. I'm having a lot of fun out here, but I think this is where we're gonna call it, man. We got the front fairing on, we got the speakers in. I do again have that hand control piece on order. It was already acting up. I think the only button on it that worked was volume down, so it has not been working for a long time. So we got a new one. Found one for around $145. Brand new. That part is $310 before tax. So we got a good deal on it, and hopefully the one that we get actually works. But everything seems to be working, man. The reason I'm not bolting everything back up is because it's gonna be a challenge to run that wire in that fairing or along the handlebars with everything bolted down. So I'm gonna do that once I get the part in. But next up, I think I'm gonna deal with the kickstand. This bike has a nasty lean to it because I think either the kickstand is bent or the bracket that holds the kickstand is bent. And also I think we're gonna deal with the air filter and also deal with the exhaust. So yeah, we got a lot of work done on Magnum. It's been a long time, but this thing is coming together. Hopefully we can keep the price of this thing to a minimum. But at some point, I'm gonna upload another video right here. This is the Victory Magnum playlist. You can click there and find the next video when it does go live at some point. But as always, thanks for listening. I hope you learned something. We're gonna get this bike back on the road. It's just taking a little bit of time, but piece by piece, we're getting it there. Anyway, catch you in the next one. Peace.